Welcome to the Angels, Magic and Joy podcast. This podcast is for those who seek answers from above, guidance and magical inspiration.
Immerse yourself in the realms of magic, angels, fairies, unicorns, dragons, and so much more. I'm Kirsty Jandrell, and I'm delighted to be here with you today.
And I am Kate Latchfeld.
Hello, welcome everybody to today's episode of the Angels, Magic and Joy podcast. And Kate and I are delighted this morning to welcome the beautiful soul that is Jackie White, who is an amazing light worker from the south of England. Welcome, Jackie. It's so lovely to have you.
Thank you, Kirsty. Thank you, Kate. Nice to be asked.
It really is. And Jackie, we're just talking about your backdrop, and I think that just sums you up to me. That feeling of joy and happiness and spring, hope, and all of that lovely fairy frequency. And you do so much to raise the frequency of the planet and just generally spread happiness, joy, peace, harmony, love, wherever you go, all the things we're passionate about on this podcast. So for those people who don't know you, and I'm sure a lot of people do, could you briefly introduce yourself and talk about all the magic that you're bringing into the world, Jackie, at the moment, please?
Okay. Wow. Honestly, when you look back, you can see why your life turns out the way it does. So I just very briefly, but I broke my leg in 1997, and I was able to watch Oprah Winfrey every day, which I'd never watched daytime telly before. But my lovely mum was looking after my young boys then. And the first day that I started watching Oprah Winfrey, there was Wayne Dyer was a guest. And it just went on from there. She had the most amazing guests, and I was so fortunate to get on that positive trail because I'd certainly not been on it before. So that was 1997. And then in 2010, I was watching an old Oprah Winfrey because I wasn't watching it religiously then. But, I'd bought loads of self-help books and gone to lots of courses and what have you, stemming from what I'd learned from the Oprah. But then I went in 2010, I was just doing the ironing and I had an old Oprah Winfrey on, and Robert Holden was on there, and he was talking about happiness, and I'd never heard of Robert Holden. And so I stopped the ironing and went and sat down because it was just so interesting. And then I looked it up. This was 2010 in the January, and on my very birthday of that year, which was late June, he was starting a course for happiness coach. And just sometimes, like, it's not that I was looking for purpose, but I just knew that was something that I wanted to do. And I'd never left my young boys. Well, they were older by then, obviously, 15 and 13 by then. But so I went to London for that course. It seemed like the perfect opportunity. It'd be my birthday as well. And my mum took the boys for that week, and there were 64 people from all over the world. It was just the most incredible week. And then I come back to tell everybody about the happiness and what I'd learned, and literally it was really a whole week about self-love, which I'd only heard of self-love. I didn't know what it meant, to be honest. I just thought it was words. But he spent a week with 15 different chapters, really. We did 3 each day for the 5 days. Literally different ways of talking about self-love and how you love yourself and how that makes all the difference in the world, So that was just amazing. But yeah, I come back and I wanted to go into schools. I had all these ideas of how I would, but actually I think within myself, I still didn't believe that I could share that, or there must have been something within, because I was rejected. Like the schools, I wasn't a teacher. I didn't have any qualifications as such. What's it called up the road? Family Matters, because I wasn't part of that church. They didn't want. Anyway, so it went on for about a year. that I didn't really share anything. And then I went to a neuro-linguistic programming NLP day, and the chap said we train in so many different things and we don't do anything with it. And that was it. I went out the next day, booked a hall for 6 weeks, and did my first happiness course. So yeah, that was 2011, or late 2011 probably. And then it just went on from there, because people that I met on that course, one girl went on to do the positive living group, and she'd only been running it a month. I was so fortunate. She'd only been running it a month, and said, would I take it over, because her personal circumstances had changed. And she had the next 6 months booked up with speakers, because I really wouldn't have known where to start. And that was it, really. It was just, everything's flowed from there. Met so many people, because obviously I was so fortunate. And by the end of that 6 months, I booked up loads more, because people would ask, could they come and talk? So it was just incredible, you know, how things just flowed when it was ready, when the time was right.
It's incredible how when we're ready and it's meant to happen, it just happens almost by itself. Of course, you felt the calling and followed it, but I love those stories, you know, how one leads to another. And we're gonna dive into all of those, Jackie, because I want to ask you so many things. But could we start with the Inspirations Positive Living group, because as you've mentioned already, and Conscious Café?
Yes.
To dive into more, you know, details, what is it all about? And you've already mentioned how you came into being and that. You know, what's your involvement in that? What is it all about? Like, what you guys do?
So to start with, it was just every single week. When I took it over, the lovely girl that I took it over from, she had booked up 4 different locations. So I'm based near Southampton, and but she'd booked up like Hedge End, Hythe, Southampton, and Chandler's Ford, which not far, but I don't know those areas. So I thought best to bring it all to Southampton, do it every week in Southampton on the same night, so that everyone knows exactly where it will be, what day it will be, and what time it will be, rather than think, oh, am I going to Chandler's Ford this week? Am I going to Hedge End that way? So I brought it all to Southampton, and we were in a lovely bowling club. Well, not to start with, we were at the college to start with, but then they made that room into a boxing ring. Anyway, so I was there a couple of years. Every single week for 8 years, I did it in person, had a different speaker every week. And within that time as well, like a really major thing happened. Well, I'll go back as well. Just Pam Gregory, you've heard of Pam Gregory, the astrologer. She's a good friend of mine. And she'd done a reading and said that April 2013, I would start meeting loads of new people. I wasn't thinking of that consciously, but now I look back, I could see that it was April 2013, that I took over the Positive Living group. And of course started to meet people, which has been amazing. So where she had that all booked up for those few months, and then everyone, so it just flowed, different speaker every week. I didn't know there were so many people that would want to talk about all the different therapies. I had feng shui, so many different things. But where were we? Oh, I was looking it up actually, and I knew Pam loves Joe Dispenza and went all over the world to see him. And so I said to her, oh, I see that this was 2017. I see that he's going to be in Birmingham and London. Do you think he'll come to Southampton for us, Pam? And she said, I don't really, Jackie, because he's doing much more with workshops now, as opposed to evening talks. And she said also he's done the front of her, like, you know, you do a blurb testimonial thing for a book. So he'd done that for her, but it took him 3 months to get it back to her, which was fine. So she said, here's an email that you can ask, but don't expect an answer straight away. I said, no, that's fine. So, you know, when you do that, let it go to the universe and see what happens. So I sent this email off just to see if he could come to Southampton while he was in Birmingham and London. Could he tell us on? And the next morning, 3 possible dates. I mean, I nearly exploded. It's the best thing. Honestly, I didn't know where to start. So then, this is the synchronicity of life. The next speaker I had the next week was Paul Scadding from Bournemouth, and he's a Hay House. You know how Hay House do all these positive talks, and I'd never met him before. What a funny man. He was so lovely. And then, like, while he was talking, he just fall on the floor to demonstrate. So, it was amazing, brilliant talk. And so he came up from Bournemouth, and I had to take him back to the train station, and we had almost an hour to wait. Well, I hadn't told anyone about Joe Dispenza because I had to sign a contract for that one. I had never signed a contract. It was such a major undertaking. And so he started talking about Joe Dispenza, and I thought, I'm going to tell him, just say it is. So I told him, wow, gosh, so beside himself. He was going to go to California to see him that year. And he said, no, he said, and I'm an events manager. So that was the amazing thing. He came on board as the events manager. He knew Liz, a lady called Liz, that was into all social media and knew how to, everything fell into place. And so he came along June the 17th, I think, or yeah, 17th of 2017. And it was just the most amazing evening. Just amazing. I'd give a lot of time to that one, but it was so, but all the same, all the way along, I was still seeing every, different speakers every week. And obviously then in 2020, was it early 20, COVID happened. And so we had to stop seeing the people and in person. And that pushed me to go online because I'd never considered going online, never. But there was a lovely girl in America that really pushed me to do that. And I'm really pleased she did. So now I've been talking to people all over the world.
That is such a beautiful story. Thank you, Jackie. Wow. And isn't it just amazing, as you say, the way you open yourself up to the possibilities and the most, you say, yes, please, I give it up for this or the highest, and the universe gives you this beautiful gift, and what an amazing thing. And for Pam as well to be involved.
Oh, exactly. Pam was beside herself because, like, she was thinking, I went to all the best hotels around here to see where he was going to stay. And it was shocking even then, 2017, like the prices of a good room. It was an eye-opener for me, without a doubt. Anyway, all I had to do was get a car for him to go back to Bournemouth, London, where he was staying. So I just hired a nice car for him to pick him up and take him back. So I didn't have to sort out the hotel. But I mean, it was amazing to see the beautiful hotels around here. And there was one that's right up the road from us in the New Forest, the Limewood. And Julia Roberts was staying there about 4 weeks ago.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was expensive.
All these, and the New Forest is so beautiful, and I know you do
Without a doubt, yeah.
events, don't you, down there?
And you've also said to me about Conscious Cafe, and that's only been a more recent thing. So a lovely friend of mine, Anne Jones, she came and did a couple of talks for me, well known in the area for being a very good healer, very positive lady, meditations, yeah, but definitely healing is her thing. And so she's a Conscious Cafe leader, and I started going along to her evenings because I'd heard how good they were. And the only difference was, and I can bring it into mine and have done into inspirations, but what I love about Conscious Cafe is that, and it is a global, they've got people all over the globe. So if anyone's interested in being a Conscious Cafe leader, the support that Judy gives, the main instigator, like Piatkis, she used to, like Hay House with books. Piatkis was a book thing, but she's sold that now. Amazing lady, Judy Piatkis. And so she gives us so much support. So there's that. We all get together and we're going on a retreat soon. But the difference with their talks is that you go along. So the first night I went to one of the conscious cafes, she was talking about ladies that have had children, that couldn't have children, what the fathers feel like around having children, because it's so big for them as well. If you've got postnatal depression. So she talked about all the things surrounding birth and what comes with that. And it was so interesting. Then you break off into groups so that everyone gets a voice, which was really lovely. Because, you know, I know when I go to talks, I get so many questions in my mind, but you don't get the opportunity to ask. And so with Conscious Cafe, we broke off into 4 little groups of 4. And one of the ladies in R4 had had postnatal depression, and she'd never spoken about it before. And by then her son was about 17. And she felt that was a real guilt for her, you know, that there was a disconnect, and she was like overboard trying to make up for that. And so we just listened. We just held the space and listened. And she just felt a complete burden had been lifted from her. And so I thought, oh, I really love this. And when Anne couldn't do it for her husband was not well, and she said about, you know, did I like to be a conscious cafe leader? And I thought, oh, I could do that, you know. So yeah, but again, you know, where we've not been able to get together at that time. But since then, I'm now going online with that. So we go into breakout rooms to have it so that everyone gets a voice. So yeah, that's a difference. But I mean, I've brought that into inspirations as well sometimes, where you can go into a breakout room and have a conversation.
That is beautiful. And that's what a lovely, lovely tale about that woman, you know, to be keeping that sort of guilt and weight inside for that length of time, and then suddenly be able to just talk openly, and as you say,
A
not
safe
judged,
space.
you
Yeah.
know, gorgeous, just to be heard. So
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what
wow,
I said. It was really wonderful.
yeah,
I thought, well, this is, you know, really a lovely way of doing an evening.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Thank you for that. Oh, you do so much.
Mm.
So one of the practices, Jackie, that we know that you're really passionate about, one of your spiritual practices that you love to spread with as many people as you can, is, and I'm going to try and pronounce this properly, the
Yeah.
Ho'oponopono prayer, which
Yes.
is the Hawaiian prayer. Um, so I wondered if you could talk a little bit into the magic, the beauty, the power, and maybe just share a little bit about how it works, and maybe even a little demo if you're feeling inspired, but no pressure. Thank you.
Well, the thing is with Ho'oponopono, where I did my first happiness course right back in 2000 and when I held that one in 2000 and that was 10, it was probably 2012. And then there was 6 of us that carried on meeting every week after that, and we would bring something that we knew about to the group. It was really wonderful, a really close bunch of friends. It was very lovely. And one of them brought along this book by Joe Vitale, Zero Limits. So you probably know about that. Joe Vitale had been in The Secret, and this was all about Ho'oponopono. And the story, shall I run through the story really quickly, just so that you know this is what got my attention. This is why I felt it was something so special. So Joe Vitale had heard about Dr. Hugh Len, a doctor that was very scientific based, practical, not woo-woo in any way. But then his daughter had got shingles at 13. Well, I don't know how long she'd had it, but she'd been to every doctor. He tried all the holistic practices, but then he heard about Morna Simeona, who was a Hawaiian kahuna. Anyway, and he heard about her and he went along to see her with his daughter, and she healed. So not to say Morna did it, but Morna practiced Ho'oponopono. and the girl healed. So he knew there had to be something to it, and he was really fascinated. He went along to a course with her for 3 times, very expensive, but he couldn't stay the first 2 times because it was so way out for him, so different to anything he believed or. And she was talking to trees, elementals, ghosts, everything off the scale from what he was used to. So then he went on a 3rd time because he just knew there had to be something to it. And that was the late 70s, and he stayed with Morna until she transitioned in 1992. And oh, chills, got truth bumps for that. And so in the mid 80s, he was asked to go to an Hawaiian hospital that had a ward for criminally insane or very, patients that had committed the most heinous of crimes. He agreed to go on the proviso that he would not have to see any of the patients. And they agreed to that because by that time, staff were manipulating the patients manipulating the staff. They were all shackled, highly medicated. The paint wouldn't stay on the wall. It was such an unloved place. They were understaffed because no one wanted to be there. There were so many things wrong with the place. So they agreed to him going because they couldn't keep anyone there that was of his as a doctor. And so he went along, and after about 4 months, the shackles were coming off. The medication was being lowered. The paint was staying on the wall. They were overstaffed rather than understaffed. I mean, everything was changing. So they asked if he would share what it was he was doing, because to their mind, he was just saying good morning every morning and going in his room. And to them, it wasn't seeming to be doing much, but everything was changing. And so he agreed to, God, I got the truth bumps again. So I he would go into his room every day. This is what he told them. Take out a file of one of the patients, read what they'd done, and whatever that brought up within him, he would say, I am sorry. I'll bring up the thing because the whole sentence is, the 4 sentences you only have to say is, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you and thank you. But the whole meaning of that is, I'm sorry for whatever is in me that has created this event. There, I'll just bring this up a minute so I say it right. And I can share this with you afterwards if you wanted to put it on a comment thing or anything. So yeah, I'm sorry for whatever programming is in me that created this event. Please forgive me for being unconscious to my own thought processes. I love you, which connects you to your higher self. I'm returning to source and wiping my inner whiteboard clean. Thank you for releasing this program from my being. There is variations on that. That's just the one that I resonate with, that I've heard. So I'm sorry for whatever program, and you don't need to say all this. You literally just say, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you and thank you. And divinity knows what that means. It knows what needs to be cleared from you. So yeah, I'll go through it again. I'm sorry for whatever programming is in me that created this event. So you're taking responsibility then for whatever's come in front of you. So even though you're reading that someone else has done that, there is a part of you that created that event, because we're all one, we're all part of the whole. Please forgive me for being unconscious to my own thought processes. So you're asking for forgiveness for whatever's come in front of you. I love you. And obviously we talked about self-love, and that's why I love Ho'oponopono as well, because it's all about self-love. So I love you connects you to your higher self. I am returning to source and wiping my inner whiteboard clean. So then you picture a whiteboard, you know it's clear. Thank you for releasing this programming from my being. So that's what you're asking divinity to do, to release the programming from your being. I mean, I just love it. It's just so simple, and that's all. It is a 24/7, like, really, when I first started doing it, I was doing that all the time, because you wake up in the night and you get those silly thoughts. And then I just think, oh, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you. Divinity knows what needs clearing from you. You don't have anything specific in mind, because divinity knows better than you do. Divinity created us. Divinity will heal us if we allow it. Anyway, I don't want to talk. If you want to ask anything, do.
No, thank you. And yes, please, if we could share that full version, Jackie, and then the amended version, as not the amended, the shorter version as well, because I know people are
Yes.
probably familiar with perhaps the
Yes.
shorter version, but I certainly wasn't aware of that,
Yes.
the background there. So that is gorgeous. Thank you.
Honestly is, yeah. It is a complete, well, some people look at it as a forgiveness prayer. Some people look at it as a prayer for peace, and some as a gratitude. But it's all of that. It's everything, and it's all so important to self-love. That's why happiness and Ho'oponopono are so entwined, because it's all about self-love.
Yeah.
And especially, we can get caught in making, so years of therapy, years of something, years of purging, years of releasing, and at the end of the day, like in my own personal practice, I've noticed, the simplicity is the key. And Ho'oponopono for me personally would be that simplicity. And yeah, absolutely, like, because I know in my path how much it helped me. And it's one of those things, we can talk about doing things, we can talk about shadow, we can talk about things, but it's just do it and then see what happens. This is one of the things I'm like, just do it and then see what happens. So I would really encourage everyone, just give it a try. Anytime anxiety will be bringing up, just and I suppose you can elaborate it in and use it in, let's say I would create pictures of that, or I suppose you can combine it with other things, but the core and the simplicity is absolutely beautiful and so powerful. And I think you've mentioned the gratitude, the happiness. I think it's so multi-layered that it's not for us even to understand it, but once it works, I'm saying always, once it works, I don't need to know. Just do it. And then,
Exactly.
isn't it? And you've mentioned, clearing and then happiness and joy. And one of our main themes of this podcast is joy. And myself and Kirsty, we had endless conversations about that, joy as a tool really for raising our vibration, as a tool, and how important it is. And in spiritual journey, very often we can get caught in being serious and being which actually can bring us down. Jackie, so what's your view on that? Obviously you have that's one of your main things, right? Happiness, but
Absolutely.
regarding growth, regarding raising our vibration, regarding our experience here, why would you feel, and what's your view on the importance of joy with bringing the vibration up?
That is the way to bring the vibration up. If you can find the positive in everything as much as possible, turn everything around. So if you've got a pain in your body, love that pain, not criticize that pain, because your body has been an amazing thing for you all your life. And so when we get a pain, I've seen people on Facebook, and this is not a criticism, because until you don't know. But, will complain about their knee or whatever they've got, whatever's going on for them. If you could only learn to, be grateful for your knee, because it's been with you all your life and it's done so much for you, as all of your body. And that's what self-love is as well. It's like really appreciating the whole of your body, the whole of your being, mind, body and spirit, loving yourself for all of that. So when you get a pain, it's asking for your attention and it's asking for your love, not to criticize it, because that will just increase it's like if you find a negative and you go with it, you'll get more negative. If you find a positive and get more positive, you go with it. And then surround yourself with those positive people. So easy to say, you know, but there is a lot of positive people. And that's the sort of people you attract. The more you are like that, you do attract those sort of people to you. So yeah, very fortunate. It's such a big part of my life. If you only saw the amount of books and that I've got leading up to this, and I've got an altar right next to the computer, but I've got that right next to the computer because gratitude is just so. And when you look, I remember I did when I first heard about it, a gratitude of at least three things a day, and it was so easy. Every day of the year for a whole year, I did the three things at night that I was grateful for in the day. I still do that occasionally, but not religiously every day now. But yeah, so anything like that just gives you that, you see it. And then I love painting. And I've never painted an angel or anything. This is Lord Melchizedek. And someone sent me a picture of him, and then I thought, oh, I really want to paint him. And then I had a treatment, this lovely girl said about, was it Bowen? I think she does Bowen anyway. She offered this treatment, which was lovely of her. And then she had the pendulum, and she said, Lord Melchizedek works with you. And that's the only one I've ever drawn, painted. So it's just doing things like that. I've got the crystals at the side and unicorns, and it's all a positive thing that if you surround yourself with positivity.
Jackie, for a moment, I don't know how I'm going to ask this question, but for a moment, I'm going to be the contraband for that question because I'm on the same team, joy and everything. But very often I come across, and it can go to the extreme. So we have our reality, right? Which is truth and never truth at the same time, okay? And there are two sides to it, right? One is we take our joyful approach regardless of what's happening.
Yes.
And then we take our negative approach, which is very common as well, and being bombarded by everything else. But then we have kind of the middle. And I see very often with people, coming to me, how can you be joyful? You don't see the truth. You don't see for what it is. So how can it affect us? And what's your view on that? How would you, approach the main question that don't we put ourselves in illusion? And I'm just trying to figure out how to ask this question. I hope you.
I know exactly what you mean.
This is very often that, that sometimes we can be not living, not grounded.
Yes.
Okay, because of bringing ourselves, that almost creating the illusion of not seeing the truth, not seeing for what is. Even let's bring it to the relationships, okay? That let's say we have a partner that's quite toxic or whatever it is, which is always a reflection, whatever, not going to details, but how does that work in relation to, I don't see for what it is, therefore I won't take the right actions, okay, because I create this illusion around it rather than to see for what it is. But joy is the way to go anyway, right? So how would you, explain that to someone that, that would fight in the other corner? You don't see for what it is. You don't see the truth because you only see positive. You create the illusion around it.
It's such a good question because I live with someone that's not on the same page as me. So Ho'oponopono, with Ho'oponopono, you create your own reality. Everyone says that anyway, not just through Ho'oponopono, but you create your own reality. So you are 100% responsible without any heaviness, but you are 100% responsible for what you've created. So that doesn't stop me from telling him what joy, if I'm happy about something, if I've been, so there was a thing he watched this morning. I don't want to bring Trump into it, but I do, so we're on a very different thing about that, even that. And because he believes what he sees on the telly, which is unbelievable. So I've got that all the time. And yet I still try and turn it around because I know I'm 100% responsible. I haven't changed that situation where, because we've been together, like it'd be 40 years married this year. Um, and so that's my choice, obviously. And in general, everything, we got two wonderful boys together. Um, and I wouldn't mind if he heard me saying this. I think he's in the house. It's, but it's not always easy, without a doubt. But he knows where I am. I know where, So I do all of this spiritually. He does his golf, his football, there's three things he does. Darts, golf, football, and darts, which I hear about, and I still help with some of it. And but it does work actually, yeah, because I'm just free to do whatever. Would never try to stop me doing anything that I do. I'd never try to stop it. So it just works. But obviously when you talk about Ho'oponopono and everything's wonderful, but you clear everything. When you hear some people's stories, and how can you ever forgive that? You understand how difficult that is for people to hear us saying, that we're 100% responsible for it. But with Ho'oponopono, there is only you in your reality. And so I was doing a talk in Emsworth one day about Ho'oponopono, and this chap said afterwards, I heard you say you're the only person in your reality, and yet I'm here talking to you. How do you explain that? I said, I have no idea. Because I just know that I am the only person in my reality. I've created my reality. Yeah, so I couldn't answer that for him. I was there talking to him. I'm here talking to you now. But I do know that whatever I do, I want to raise my vibration. I want to be on the highest, my higher self, be in tune with that, meditate. I'm not stopped from doing anything. So it's, up to you in your own reality where you want to be with that. So it does just work for us.
I'd
I
say
don't know if that answers.
it's also, we often, let's say with Kirsty, we say we don't use the word protection, we use the word spiritual hygiene. So it's kind of turning it around, the same. There is joy and there's joy. So there's different, the inner joy, regardless of the experience, and there is joy pretending I don't see what's out there, and I pretend everything is in my illusion, rather than to see what for what it is, and still inside having joy. I have that experience, and I love that you're saying that, because I often say that to people. They would be like, oh, thank you so much, you helped me. I'm like, don't worry, I'm not even here, you just created me, I don't even exist. And they're like, why would you say that? Why would you say that? What do you mean? How would you see that, Kirsty? With our joy movement, because we have our joy agenda. We have our joy agenda and our podcast, and I often meet that. And years ago, I would get myself caught into that, like, okay, so none of it makes sense anyway, so what's the point? But then I'm like, that doesn't really work for me. I'm like, okay, for a moment I might just pretend and I'm just not saying it, and then that raised my vibration, so everything did make sense, everything, using Ho'oponopono as well. When you lose point of living, basically, because we're all dying and nothing exists anyway, so what's the point of even trying? So for a moment, living in the illusion, creating it, and then it became the reality. It's quite an interesting one. Kirsty, how do you view, the joy theme in that, and the truth behind it, and, sugarcoating? And there is such a big movement with that as well, because I see people, going to the other extreme as well, almost not being themselves, not living with the truth, almost kind of, living in a bubble, not being grounded, and not seeing the things for what they are. Even in relationships, right? They will be like, oh, but they're treated in a certain way, and they don't want to see it for what it is, kind of as a self defense mechanism, obviously. But how would you see that, Kirsty?
Yeah, I think it's such a valid, I think it's such a pertinent subject, because there's almost, at the moment, and this is why I think joy is so important because it's about unity, but unity within. And I think when, when we're talking about people not being in joy or being in joy, straight away when we're talking about that, it's creating that division. And I I love both of what you've said. I love, Jackie, the fact that you mentioned the gratitude diary, because for me that was such a game changer. I was given the task of on one of my yoga teacher trainings many years ago. I think it was 2012 or 2013, and I was given the task to keep this gratitude diary as you write down three things at the end of the day, and they had to be very specific. You couldn't just say, oh, I'm happy because I've had a nice day. You had to be very specific.
Yeah.
And we were to keep this diary for 40 days. It was what we call a sadhana, a spiritual practice. And so I started, and I thought, well, this is a lovely idea, but we'll see what happens. And there was quite a bit of resistance in the group. There was quite a bit of, yeah, people's inner dialogues were coming up, but I kept on, and I honestly, the end of the 40 days, my life had changed 180, not 360, but 180.
Yeah.
And I continued with the practice like you did, Jackie, then for years afterwards. And I just sat back and watched my reality that I was co-creating change
Mhm.
purely by that. And I this is a because I'm very fortunate. I have um a business in 3D, and my colleagues joke and laugh at me a lot of the time because they do, I think, see me as a little bit away with the fairies, shall we say. But one of the practices we adopt is at the end of the week, across our company, we have a gratitude email, and everybody puts what they've been grateful for, however awful their week's been, however, whatever calamities, whatever frustrations they've had. We basically just write a very short email to say what we're grateful for, put that together in a company email, and we end our week on that. So, and gradually they've kind of really got into it over the years. There was quite a bit of resistance this time. But to me, it's really a case of, well, as you say, I'm responsible for myself. I'm responsible for my own reality, and that is it. And it's really then up to anybody else whether they're going to be inspired or not. And I've learned that really that's the only thing I can affect, my vibration.
Yes.
And it's everything else is free will for everybody else. And it's quite simple at the end of the day, because I struggled for years, to be honest. I was like, please, I want to bring you into my joy. And it's actually, you can't if people aren't ready. I think we have to respect that, respect everyone's path.
Oh, do you know, that's so lovely. I love that idea for the place that you work at to do that email at the end of each week. What an incredible thing that they're looking for the joy or, the gratitude of the week. Wow, that's brilliant. Really. And it's just simple things like that. Where we're doing this Conscious Cafe retreat, which I've never been on a retreat as such before, and they said we'd like to go away with a gift. And I thought, oh, on the happiness course, when we've done that, a 6-week happiness course, at the end of the 6 weeks, we all write the name, like, so Jackie, Kirsty, Kate, have a piece of paper with our names on, goes round to everybody in the group, and they all write something positive about each person that they've witnessed. And, it's just a really lovely thing to keep, you know, yeah, I've still kept them from all the courses that I've done in that, because it's just a really lovely thing and it's such a gift. So I said to them, oh, well, what about gifting each other that from what we find for the 3 days together?
So beautiful, thank you. And it is, isn't it? It's those simple things that make such an impact. And it's pure law of attraction, isn't it? As you say, both of you, whatever you focus on, it amplifies, and we have that choice, don't we?
Yeah,
Bring
yeah,
more.
absolutely.
Which segues rather nicely into our next question, actually, Jackie and Kate. Um, so we've touched upon briefly, the path of ascension, the path of the light worker, where we are at the moment, and the golden era.
Mm.
So could we perhaps just dive into that a little bit, Jackie, and first of all, for perhaps people who are not familiar with both of those phrases, could you sort of clarify what we're talking about?
Yes.
And then how you view it, where we are we on track, and what are the important things for us to do um, as we progress, really? Talking about this sort of co-creation with the universe and this unity consciousness, really.
I don't know if you've heard of, I'm sure you have, Dr. Christian, Christiani Northrup. Do you know
Oh,
her?
yes, yes, yes.
Yes. So she posted the most amazing video the other day that talked about we were never born to have to look at what's going on in India, um, all around the world. We are community based. Like our bodies are built to be in community, to be, and we're going back to that. I think that's what the golden era is going to be about: being in community, looking after each other, um, growing our own veg. So when you talk about ascension, I had no idea until I met Tim Wilde. To be honest, I don't think if I even knew the word. Um, but I just knew, I'd heard about Tim, and I rung him up, and the first night he talked about ascension, and so that was luckily, over 10 years ago now. So I've had 10 years to sort of understand a bit about what ascension means. And I was really concerned to start with, because I was thinking, oh, the planet's already ascended and we've got to catch up. And then I thought, have we got to leave, if our family's not ascending, if they don't understand or not open or not wanting to know about that, have we got to leave them to ascend with the planet? Literally, I was saying it, but it's just a vibration. And people were saying that we're already there. We have already ascended if we're in touch with our higher selves. And that's not to say, people will catch up and understand this, but for ascension, it is just a different vibration. So the higher vibration you can keep on with joy, gratitude, love, because that is the answer. Love is the answer to everything. What did my son write to me the other day? It was so funny. And then I just put back, love answers everything, Joey. Yeah, anyway. He's so the ascension for me is a vibration, a higher vibration where we are more in joy. We're not looking at the news from all around the world. We are just concentrating on our community, bringing community. So we've got to thank, 2020, because at the time it would have been the worst thing that's ever happened, perhaps, in a lot of people's lives. But for the most of us, we've met a community in Lyndhurst that we meet every Sunday morning. Even now, I'm not going every Sunday, but I do still go a lot. There's a whole community. We've got over 300 people signed up into the community, where we pay £3 a month, and they put all these marvelous talks on now, because we do know what's going on in the world, and you're not blind to it. But even understanding that, we're now meditating, like Pam Gregory's doing the 7 o'clock meditation every day, sending love out into the world. And like Tim said, even that will have an impact on what's happening in the world, on peace, on love, on healing for the world. The more we can do that and come together in community, helping each other out when it's needed, holistic medications rather than medications, so I am aware, of course, of what the world's like and about. But so is Tim, but he so very cleverly just talks about the best of it, because that's what then you're bringing into your reality and the people that you're with, so yeah, I don't know, does that answer? Oh, golden era as well is Diana Cooper did a talk, well, with Robert Holding actually. They'd never come together. And last April in Poole, we did a day together. That was the most amazing thing as well. This girl from New Zealand, she'd messaged me on the Wednesday and said, is it online as well as in person? And I said, oh no, it is in person. Saturday morning, that was on the Wednesday. I just said, I'm sorry, it's not online, it is just in person. Never realised she was in New Zealand. On the Saturday morning, Robert was speaking. He said, oh, you might have been at the table on Thursday morning, talking to your husband, saying, I'm really drawn to go into this workshop. He said, where is it? And she said, in Poole in the UK, in Dorset. And he said, well, you'd have to leave today then if that was the case. And she said, yeah, there is a plane at 9 o'clock tonight. Oh, truth bumps again. And she was on the plane at 9 o'clock that night. He said, her husband said, if the door's open for you, and then you're meant to go. And she was with us at 9 o'clock Saturday morning from New Zealand.
Oh my goodness me.
I mean, just incredible. And that was all about the golden era that day, the golden future where we're all going to be, living in community, looking at the best of each other, wanting the best for everyone, not finding fault in others, really loving ourselves as well. It was just such a magical day. And she was just amazing, that lady, Sue.
I love that, Jackie. Wow, I love those stories. And I love this turning around. I don't remember which author was writing it, because we have the evolution theory that the strongest survives, that's the strongest, and there's this whole turning. I don't remember who was writing about that's not the strongest, that the community, the communion, the collaboration of people, that's what wins, that's what survives, that's what's the key. And I love this turning, and I feel like this is the core, like you say, of the golden era of our ascension. And speaking of the ascension, Jackie, the importance, because you're all about it, and I feel like the theme of self-love, we can talk into hours, and every person understands it different, but I know that there are depths into it, and I would like to see your view, your understanding of it. What does it actually mean, and the importance of it in our ascension, in our journey, in our evolution here.
So thank you. If we're the person that creates our own reality, if we're going to criticize ourselves, what good is that going to do for anything? Literally, what are we doing to ourselves? We've got to love every cell in our body. Well, we haven't got to, it's your choice, but love every cell in your body, love everything about you and what you do, because you're not going out to harm anyone. You're doing the best you can with what you know, and when you know better, you do better. So self-love is just everything, and that's where the inner child comes in as well. And again, that was something I knew very little about, but Robert Holding is very much into the inner child. He did once he was working with Louise Hay, he went on a course for the inner child, just to realize how important our inner child is. And when I've done talks before, some people have never even heard of the inner child, and that's absolutely, because until you hear about it, you don't know. But that little 7-year-old or younger person, and we're like sponges at 7, and we've been taking everything in from all around us. So it is our inner child that runs our body, does our breathing, everything. And it's that inner child that holds all our memories as well. And that's why the Ho'oponopono is so important, to clear all those old tapes, old memories replaying within the inner child, because it's taken on the traumas as well as the good stuff, So self-love is to love your inner child, to really acknowledge her or him, and just really send love to that inner child. And because we're perhaps not aware of the inner child and how important it is, we've probably neglected her. So if you look back, then I had a very thank gosh, you know, I had a very lovely upbringing, very, very wonderful parents, but had stuff going on for themselves, which they wouldn't have even, you know, because we're understanding way more now, as they understood way more than their parents did. But that's how it goes on, and we understand. So when we clear ourselves, we're clearing for our ancestors as well. So understanding all what they had going on, we took on. So just as an example there, when I first done the happiness course, I had a real pain in my hips. And when I spoke to the girl, Jen, she does the EFT tapping, and she talked about my mum. And there was a situation, my mum, bless her, and I don't think she'd mind me saying this, she had a baby before she had us three. She had a baby before that. And of course, in those days, you couldn't keep, you know, she was being brought up by her aunt and uncle, who were wonderful and loved her so much, but couldn't take the shame of that. So she had to give the baby away. Oh. And so Jen said that I was taking on the guilt and pain that my mum carried, not even knowing that. And once I had that understanding, the pain went. I mean, it was just, and started to love that part of myself, and, you know, heal for my mum as well, for what she must have gone through, because I can't even imagine. And so yeah, that it literally is self-love, loving the inner child. She's felt neglected over the years because she's not, you know, so you can talk to your inner child, love your inner child, walk hand in hand, huddle her, you know, just really acknowledge her and say, you know, I'll never neglect you again. So it's just it's a same as the practice of gratitude or any of that. It's literally just realizing that's part of you, part of the one self.
Could we add to that, Jackie? Because I bet you've loads of practices. So let's say from my side, this is one of the biggest discoveries, that self-love is also, you know, saying no, or setting
Yes,
the boundaries. What would you
yes.
add to it? What is self-love practice? So what would you add to, apart from, you know, looking after our bodies, you know, what is looking after our inner child? What is, what would you add to, you know, into details, to give something out there?
You said something then I wanted to talk about. What did you say?
Maybe
Oh,
about
yeah,
saying no, the
boundaries,
boundaries.
boundaries. Yes. And that's not been a thing that I've been very good at, actually. And so something happened just before Christmas, and it was a wonderful day, but I was away for 3 days. And I came back and realized that I'd not set boundaries for myself in any way. And oh, this is quite a story. But anyway, I said to Tim Wild about that, and he said, I think you need to get some Jackie boundaries in place. And I'd sort of realized that as well. And I'd already put out that I was going to do an evening talking about boundaries, because whatever you give advice to anyone, it's usually advice you need to hear for yourself. And so, I had realized from that event that I did need some Jackie boundaries. And I've been very good, actually. I know that's only Christmas, and look at the age I am now. But you know, there was a girl on that course with Tim, you know, that was very insistent and wanting me to do things with her, and I was able to say no. So that is a massive thing for your own self-love and self-protection, and, you know, being able to say no, because have been a people pleaser without a doubt, and still can be, I know. But I've got to love myself through that as well, just accepting that is because there was another event that I went to online, but with Conscious Cafe, and that was Nicholas Haynes. If you look up Conscious Cafe, Nicholas Haynes, he was doing you had a vitality test first if you wanted to. And so I put in that, and I was like 37% earth, something, something, different percentages. I was only 2.7 on wood, and this is the year of the wood snake. And so I asked him the question, what does that mean? Why would I be so low on wood? And he said, well, it probably means that you've got low boundaries or no boundaries. Amazing. And that's why I decided to do this boundary evening. And then when I told Tim I'd already set that up, he said, I'll do it with you. So we did this boundary evening together, and I had to look it all up, and that is literally, to have boundaries is to love yourself, is to be able to say no, realize, but of course you can say it nicely and realize that it's for your own sake and for your own mental state, and, yeah, very important in
Yeah.
self-love to have boundaries.
Thank you, Jackie, for bringing that in. And I think probably so many people who are listening can relate because, when you are empathic, it's natural to want to help, isn't it? And
Oh, absolutely.
it's, it pours out from you, this love for others, but it's because without those boundaries, there's nothing left to give to anybody else, let alone to
I
fill your
think
own
if I may add,
spaces.
I think this is like, with people pleasing or boundaries or whatever, like you just mentioned, Kirsty, for empathetic people, I think the good practice is to always ask ourselves, why? Why am I like that? And then we can dive in, let's say in my case, being empathetic. So someone has their emotions, or this is one of my biggest discoveries, very recent, I have to say, allowing our other people to have their experience, not to, I'm gonna take it for you because I feel your pain experiencing that, and I know, and I feel uncomfortable, so let me just take it, solve it myself, which we can never do for other people. So it's always nice, this, diving in, why, and that's really very recent conclusion that I got. It's okay to give others experience, and even if we say no, we set boundaries and there is a reaction to it, it's okay. And allowing other people to have their experience, I think this is part of mastery as well, right? That we can withhold that we don't run straight away to please them, or run straight away to save it or something, to really, I think this is part of mastery, to withhold that within ourselves, that it's okay to allow other people to have their experience. Would you agree?
Totally, yeah. It's a learning all the time. You never stop learning, do you? Literally.
No,
I
no,
remember
never.
years ago, a friend of mine, she said, Jackie, you've done all the learning you need to. I said, but you never stop learning. I love learning anyway. Um, yeah. Sorry, what were you going to say, Kirsty?
Yeah, no, I was just going to agree with both of you and just say, everyone's on their own path, and it's actually sometimes we're doing people a disservice when we want to rush in and help them. It's actually they're on their own path of soul discovery, and for them to go through experiences is, it's part of their dharma, isn't it? So
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, I found that as well when I was a learning support assistant at the school, and that was because I just didn't want to be parted from my children. I had this overwhelming need to protect, but actually they needed independence. They needed to be shown, So I was very lucky to be at the school because that's what they were really showing, that to let them be independent and be themselves and not take. You just don't want anything bad to happen, or have those experiences, but of course they need them, don't they, for growth.
And as you say that, it's 11:11 on the clock, bang, perfect.
there we go. Oh, no, yeah, I totally can relate to that, Jackie. I'm sure, Kate, you can. But yeah, that's a constant learning curve, isn't it, with our own children? And yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh. So
Yeah.
with that then, the 11:11, we brings us to our final question of today, Jackie, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, and this is the question that we ask to all of our beautiful guests, and I'm sure you have absolutely hundreds, but if you could narrow it down to one or two, please. Your most magical, joyous, or angelic even experiences, Jackie, that have really sort of transformed your life? I know you've actually touched upon several already, but was there one or two that just kind of really
Well,
changed
I
things?
suppose I automatically go to that opportunity where I could watch Oprah Winfrey every day, because that really started my journey for me, to see all those amazing people that she was interviewing all the time. You know, I know there's talk of not such good things with her now, but honestly, what she did for so many people for a very long time was just absolutely, you know, I would never have heard, you know, and Jerry and Esther Hicks, I don't know if you've heard of them, that
Yes.
they do the channelings of Abraham. So
Yeah.
that was, I bought all the videos, you know, I would get up in the night before I had dogs, because I don't want to disturb the dogs now, but get up in the night and watch the Jerry and Esther Abraham Hicks videos, because the simplicity of them, that was before I knew Ho'oponopono. But yeah, because I didn't actually take to Ho'oponopono to start with. Oh, I won't go into all of that. But, you know, Joe Vitale was not an easy one. But then the chap that I used to do the Ho'oponopono courses with, he said we have to be very grateful to Joe Vitale, because he brought it to the wider audience. You know, millions know about it because of him. And so I am very grateful to him. Yeah, so the main things that would come to mind for that is what I learned from that. Obviously, Robert Holden for the happiness, and then the Joe Dispenza evening, but so many others. I've had very wonderful speakers and all. There's too many to talk about, but yeah, that's the ones that come straight to mind. Robert Holden's come down and done a few talks for us now, and yeah, I'm very fortunate for the people that I've met through what I do, and it's, you know, it never seemed like work, because I just love what I take on is what I love.
And that comes
Very
across.
grateful to
Yeah.
Tim Wilde, obviously, you know, finding him. He'd never done a public talk before. On the first time, you know, when I said, oh, I've heard about you, would you come and do a talk for me? And that was 2014. And he said, oh, I suppose I better get out there. And on that first evening, he never mentioned Diana. I didn't know he had any connection with Diana Cooper then. So yeah, everything just flows, synchronicities. Very, very fortunate.
Oh, Jackie, well, you're such a magnet, and this is it, because you put out so much love. So it's this is what you get back. So, oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for asking me.
And
Great to
really,
meet you, Kate.
yeah, and yeah, really, Kate, I think we just wanted to. Have you got anything else, love, that you wanted to ask particularly?
I
Or
would like to ask Jackie, what do you offer? How can we get hold of you? How can we get
yes.
more of you? How can we pull everything that you offer? What you offer out there? How can we get in touch with you, Jackie?
So my website is Jackie, Jackie at Jackie-white.co.uk. White as the colour. Jackie-white.co.uk is my website. Tells you all about me and what we do on there. And yeah, in email is Jackie@Jackie-white.co.uk. If you wanted to email. But yeah, love to hear from anyone. And then on there is what we've got coming up. So there is a couple of Conscious Cafe ones coming up. One about our shadow self, which is important to know as well. But like you said, you know, it's difficult when you're saying be positive, positive, positive. But it is important to understand your shadow side and what triggers you, because obviously you still get triggered. Certain things trigger you. So to understand your shadow side is as important as understanding your inner child and self-love. It all comes back. It's all one thing, but it's really good to understand that, or for yourself to understand you, you know, when you can get. And obviously that event just before Christmas, that was a trigger for me. So, and it brought on the boundary evening. So yeah.
Thank you,
We never stop
Jackie.
learning, Jackie, and we've learned so
Never.
much today. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
that. And I love the conclusion that you made. I think it's going to stay with me for a while or forever. Thank you so much for today, Jackie. And thank
Thank
you
you
for
both.
Kirsty for
Thank
bringing Jackie
you.
today. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Oh, have a beautiful day, everyone. And we'll put all of those details beneath, Jackie, as well,
Oh,
in the show
brilliant. Thank
notes, so
you.
people can contact you. And yeah, and if you've really enjoyed this episode, please don't be shy about liking or subscribing to the channel as well. But have a beautiful day, and thank you so much, Jackie and Kate, again.
Thank you.
Thank
Mwah.
you.
Lots of
Much
love.
love. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.